We are back for another episode of Gatehouse Insights. In this episode, I'm finding out about how to build a client base from scratch, what you need to do to get through a prospect client, and how to deal with rejection. We are also finding out whether technology has had an impact on the traditional ways of sales. I'm joined by Lucas Friend, who has been working in sales growth for the last 15 years. Don't forget to subscribe to the Gatehouse Legal Recruitment YouTube channel to catch it all. Tell us what you do on a day-to-day basis.
So I work for GlobalData, and we're one of the largest data and insight solutions provider globally. We work in the space of consumer, retail, technology, healthcare and financial services. I'm responsible for the intelligence part of our business, so Verdict. So I head up Asia Pacific and I've been with the group now for about 14 years. So I guess I'm responsible for the growth and the development of not just the team, but the platforms and the business here in Asia Pacific. So, and running a sales team and looking after existing clients, and we've got more than 370 clients here in Australia. As a group, we work with more than 4,000 of the world's leading companies, and so responsible for bringing the business here to Asia and continuing its growth and development into Asia Pacific.
So part of your success is because you've always embraced, I suppose, picking up the phone and calling people.
Yep.
Does that come naturally to you?
Speaking to people comes naturally to me. So I've never been shy in putting myself out there. I have been in sales now for about 14 years, and I'd never had any sales experience or sales training. I've done a lot in hospitality, so I was in and around many different people. Naturally, I'm quite gregarious, I'm quite confident, and I enjoy speaking to different people, so picking up the telephone is just a natural way of communicating for me, and I've found it really easily. It's a skill that some people have to learn, but I've never had any issue with it. So it's just an opportunity for me to speak to people and find out things about people, which then encourages me to learn more.
Can you remember the first day you obviously took on a sales role?
Yes, about 14 years ago, I was backpacking around Spain and I ran out of money, and I'd lived in London for a number of years. I wanted to see a bit of the world, working at a bar as most Australians did or do back, are doing now and have done and doing back then. And I backpacked around Spain, ran out of money and needed a job, and answered back then I went to an internet cafe, and very different than what we do today. And I found myself responding to an ad for a telesales executive at a group called SPG Media. So I found myself walking in and asking for a job, desperate for money. Again, no sales experience. And they took a shine to me. I don't know why. I guess I was tenacious, and I was a bit sort of ruthless. I was a bit of a go-getter, and just loved it. The ability to again speak to people, have fascinating conversations, sell a really good product, but also make some good money. So it was something that I just stuck with me, and I've enjoyed ever since.
So you have a wealth of knowledge, I suppose, over the last 14 years of building and maintaining those relationships.
Yep.
What can you tell us? What are some tips you can give us to help others build and maintain relationships from the very beginning?
I think be yourself. It's a common thing that people say, but at times we lose that human element, and often people are so focused on selling they forget just to how to develop relationships, and that's obviously by engaging and talking with people and finding out more about what they're doing, how they're going, and developing that trust. And again, if you can connect with someone, if you can communicate with someone, it typically bodes well for a really good relationship. So it's just a matter of being able to to actually understand how people are feeling, what they're doing, and what you can offer.
For people wanting to build, I suppose, a client base from scratch,
Yep.
what process should they do, or what steps or action should they take to build it?
It's a good question, actually. So when I started the business back here 10 years ago in Melbourne, we had no Australian clients, no Asia Pacific clients. Now we've got more than 760 within Asia Pacific. So we've had to essentially develop a client base from scratch. And I guess the first thing is you need confidence. So you need to have the confidence to put yourself in front of and under the noses of as many people as you possibly can. Whether it's good conversations, bad conversations, you just have to be motivated enough to speak to people and speak to as many people as you possibly can. You have to be unique as well. So again, in the world of today, there's so many ways that we can connect and we can communicate. You have to find a point of difference, which again will be engaging, which people can connect with. So either selling yourself or whatever it is you're selling has to be unique. It has to be something that people are wanting to be engaged with. And again, lastly, you've got to be prepared to put the hard work in. It doesn't come easy building a client base from scratch, and anyone will tell you that. So there are long hours there. It is monotonous. There are challenges. You're going to get hurdles at many different times, but you've just got to be prepared to roll up the sleeves and graft away. And again, as I said, put yourself or connect with as many people as possible, because they'll eventually develop relationships, and that's how you build a client base.
How you're saying put yourself out there?
Yep.
Where? How? What should people do?
Well, I mean, again, it starts from picking up the telephone. Back in my day, we didn't have a lot of social media. So I mean, these days you connect, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. So it's a lot easier to position yourself, in front of people. But also, again, go to networking events, go to as many, speaking events or conferences or potentially exhibitions. Put yourself where other people that you want to connect with are going to be. If it means picking up the phone, going through, online directories, telephone books, whatever it is, again, you want to be having conversations with people. So, there's no time to be shy. You have to really make yourself heard by as many people as you possibly can.
You touched on technology,
Yep.
And there's so many different ways to connect with people. Has it changed much since the traditional ways of, I suppose,
In terms
sales?
of selling?
Yeah.
Another good question. I mean, I would have loved to, when I first started sales 14 years ago, I would have loved today's technology. I mean, I probably would have made a lot more money. But essentially, it hasn't changed. Sales hasn't changed because the bottom of everything is you still have to be able to connect with people. And we do that, whether it's face-to-face, over the phone. There's that human interaction, that personal interaction that you still need. We're in a much better position these days because we have such better technology than years ago. So our ability to communicate is better than before. Companies, like ours, we're investing heavily in product, heavily in sort of development, and training as well. So we're all better prepared, but essentially you still have to have the ability to communicate, on a personal level. And that will never change. The ability to sell will still start from saying hello to someone, introducing yourself, I think.
Would you, if someone had an option between email, touching in on someone, or a prospect first,
Yep.
would you say email or phone call?
Phone call 100% of the time.
Why?
Again, it's all about, having that ability to engage, having the ability to, on a personal level. I keep talking about this. So, email, it's good. There are benefits of email. A lot of people don't, read the emails as they should be. But the ability of just reaching out and someone saying, "Hi, how are you?" as opposed to writing a few lines in an email has tremendous effect. So I would always encourage people first and foremost is to reach out to someone, whether go and see them, have a coffee, organise a meeting, pick up the phone, how are you, before you get into the emails.
With prospect clients,
Yes.
how do you transit, or what's the process of getting prospect to actual client?
It doesn't often just stop when you've sold them something and they've signed on the dotted line and they've paid the invoice. We've moved away from just the high pressure sales environments to a more consultative style approach to sales. So a client is essentially for life, and the relationships, it will depend on the support you give, the advice you give. Making things, what they're after, looking after their needs, attending to their needs, rather than just perhaps a 30-minute conversation or a number of emails. So a prospect really only turns into a client once that relationship and that trust has been built. And there's examples of, we've been working with clients for 10 or 15 years that we have incredibly good relationships with. At one point in time, they were just a cold prospect, but now we value them as clients and they value us. So I think it doesn't. The hard work really starts once you've brought them on board as a client, because that's when you prove your worth.
How long would you say before someone does actually turn into a client, from prospect to client?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're selling. I mean, the processes. We have 15-minute conversations and the deal's signed then and there. Other times it takes, there's a longer process. It could take months. It could take years. I mean, I don't think you should put, a time frame on things. The last thing you want to do is rush the process. People take time. That's who we are. You don't want people sort of making rash decisions. Again, it's about building relationships. It's about developing that trust and building that trust. That could take more than 5 minutes sometimes. So it's really how long's a piece of string. Some prospects respond to you more warmly and more easily than others. So you have to be prepared to put the time in and to nurture the relationship and to develop that relationship, and don't rush things, because if you rush things, they'll feel rushed and they'll feel pressured, and then obviously it can turn sour.
Have you ever given up on a prospect, and should anyone ever give up on a prospect client?
I'm a big believer. I mean, the cheesy line is no, you never give up. But I don't like to burn bridges, because often no just means not now. It doesn't mean never. So there's been lots of instances where I've persisted. I've been tenacious and I've been quite ruthless. But I really wasn't listening to what the client was saying. So I never, regardless of the situation, I won't, leave on a bad note, because you never know, in 2 or 3 months' time, perhaps a year's time, there's the opportunity for, a relationship there. And if you give up on someone, and you burn a bridge, then there's never an opportunity. So, there's been plenty of instances where I've had to just perhaps change my line of thinking and say, all right, I'm prepared that it's not going to happen now, but I'm going to revisit this in perhaps a month or perhaps 6 months or a year. And there's been lots of instances where, I've managed to, win that client because of, certainly I was patient, I listened to what they were saying, and it was a good time. So often, no means just not now rather than never.
And do you normally, how long do you leave before, I suppose, you keep following them up? How often?
Well, I mean, again, a quick question. You don't want to be a pain in the backside.
Yeah.
It's about listening to what the potential client is looking for. They may say, look, don't speak to us, but I'm happy to engage in 6 months' time. And then perhaps you might speak to them in 6 months' time. Again, it's all about sort of gauging what they're looking for. Often it's a touch base. That's where the email can actually work really well. So rather than just having to call everyone or go out and see someone every 5 minutes, it may be a friendly email. Hi, how things are going? How's business this month? regularly, and it just keeps you at the forefront of their mind without being, too distracting. Yeah.
Now, in sales, there's obviously lots of rejection.
Yes.
Lots of no's.
Lots.
How do you stay motivated, and how do you actually push past those rejections to actually keep just going?
You have to, sales isn't for everyone. And I think it takes a certain type of person to embrace rejection. A lot of people, I've never feared rejection. It's just a natural part of the sales process. So that was never an issue for me. I see a lot of people that get hung up about or fear the rejection, where they should not embrace it, but it's going to happen, regardless if you want it or not. It's going to happen. So if you're prepared, if you can actually listening to why the prospect is rejecting, then it's a lot easier to take on board. But we all get rejected, and it's the motivation to keep going, which sets, I guess, the average salesperson is a very good salesperson apart. So it's just not really taking too much fear in someone saying no to you.
For you, it comes naturally. For someone that wants to be good at sales,
yep,
but has that rejection blocking them, how do they push past it? Because it doesn't come naturally to them.
You just have to practice. Again, it comes with a level of experience. So confidence is a big thing, in sales. But if you're prepared for the worst, it often never is the worst. So for those that are, and again, it's a common thing with most of our, and the newer execs in the organisation, that it's that ability to continue to push forward even after they've been rejected, for the whole day, for the whole week. It takes a certain skill, but again, it's about just continue to practice. Continue to speak to people, because sales is numbers, and eventually, if you stick to your guns, there's going to be someone that will give you a positive response. If it's not, then you might look for something else, because unfortunately, rejection is a big part of this sales game. Yeah. So if people are struggling with it, you might want to look for something else.
It's not for you.
Yeah, it might not be for you.
Now, you also manage a team,
yep,
of sales consultants.
Yes.
How do you keep them motivated?
A good question. I think it takes, again, a special sort of someone to come in, particularly in our environment, and to hammer away at the phones all day. But if you're in a really good culture, part of a really good team, and if you're selling great product, part of a great business, it's quite easy to motivate people. The ability to have, again, really interesting conversations, introducing fantastic technology to, some wonderful industries, but also, the ability to make some very good money as well. So, there are times, like any sales environment, that there is that lag. We incentivise heavily, so we keep things fun, we keep it very focused. So, we encourage people to, again, discuss their issues. We encourage sort of people to show initiative and perhaps look at ways in which the team can grow and develop. So that there's a lot of hands-on, training which is going on at the moment to ensure that people are motivated. Hopefully. Yeah.
And that's it. Another episode of Gatehouse Insights draws to an end. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing this video with your friends. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Gatehouse Legal Recruitment YouTube channel, where you can see more.